What's up, my fellow robots in disguise, and welcome to a new Let's Play series. I've been in a very Transformer-y mood lately, so it's time to play this game, which is actually not a new Let's Play, really. This is a Let's Play I've been wanting to do since I've been doing Let's Plays, but This game is honestly quite challenging, so I was worried that I wouldn't be able to do it any justice, but I just randomly got the urge to record it, and I think it's going to go pretty well, so I think I'm prepared for the challenge, and this is Transformers. The game that came out in 2004 based off the Armada anime series. Technically cartoon series because it was made in America, it was just sort of drawn like an anime. This is probably the most critically acclaimed Transformers game ever made. I don't know if Fall of Cybertron has had a better reception or not, but judging by the reviews I've seen, this is the most critically acclaimed Transformers game ever made. So it is a third-person shooter, much like the Of Cybertron games, but this game predates them by like
the Decepticons have followed the Minicon. Confirm.
6 years, something like that. I don't know. So, to give a little bit of backstory on the premise here, the Armada series came out in like 2003 in America, and was not well received by the fans. It had a few glaring flaws, like a lot of animation inconsistencies and whatnot, and a couple of annoying characters, but I really liked it. This, to me, was the series that made Transformers popular, or helped make Transformers popular again in America, after so many of the series were not released in the US. After Generation 1 finally died out, you know, so many of those 90s series were never released in America. Anyway, it does have a few good things going for it. It has a unique art style, and it has a unique concept of the story, basically stating that the Autobots and Decepticons are at pretty much a complete stalemate in the war until the Minicons, the little small Transformers that are human-sized, could be used as weapons. And now that they've been removed from the conflict of their own volition, the Autobots and Decepticons are at a stalemate again. So to get to the game here, like I said, it's third person. We have a pretty simple control scheme. The primary weapon is on the R1 as usual. This is a PS2 exclusive, by the way. When we kill enemies, they drop energon that restores our health, and it's pretty simple. This game is made by Atari, so they know old school, but this game actually has quite a few innovating features. When we find these said Minicons, they can be equipped to our shoulder button slots, and they give us different abilities, which I think that's one thing that a lot of the old school fans did not like about Armada, is the concept of the Minicons and how gimmicky they were for the toy line. You know, you just strap a smaller robot to your arm, or you strap a truck to your arm, and all of a sudden you're twice as powerful, instead of, you know, like in Generation 1 we had stuff like the Target Masters, which were literally, you know, smaller robots that turned into guns, which is much cooler. So, depending on what slot the Minicons occupy will determine what ability you get. And they also have a color-coordinated secondary ability that will that'll come into play later. I'll talk about more when we get more Minicons. So right now, we have our primary weapon, which is not really a Minicon, it's just a simple little blaster. And we have our Minicon we just picked up, which is going to be our secondary R2 button weapon, and it's a homing missile launcher, which is actually pretty good for right now. And the homing missiles will have their purpose later in the game as well, but they're not the most powerful secondary weapon. We jump with L1, and the jumping is actually, there's a lot of jumping in this game, not quite as much as in War for Cybertron probably, but the physics are very important in this game. Like, this is a very physicsy game. So we can also transform, of course, and the vehicle physics are actually quite nice too. We can run down enemies. These enemies are just called light units. They are Decepticlones, which apparently they thought was a good idea for this game, because there's only 3 Autobots in this game and only 5 Decepticons, so having you actually fight the Decepticons in these levels regularly would be very tedious. So they had to have an army for them to fight, which is executed a lot better than in the other the Transformers movie games, where it's just like, oh, other nameless Decepticon drones that have no names, but actually they ended up doing that in the movie anyway, so yeah, screw it. Anyway, like I said, this can actually be quite difficult because we lose health really fast. I'm playing this on the easiest difficulty. There are 3 difficulty levels in this game, and the difficulty scales tremendously with each difficulty, and that's why I chose to play it on what would be easy. I consider that to be the default difficulty, because what changes when you increase the difficulty is the quantity of enemies per encounter in this game, like almost, it seems like it doubles almost with how the crazy amount of enemies you have to fight on the would-be medium difficulty. And then on the hardest difficulty, the location of all the minicons, or not all of them, but most of the minicons, has been swapped. So I have no idea where any of the minicons are in any point of the game on the hardest difficulty, on Commander difficulty. So this game is pretty hardcore. Like, if anybody can beat this on Commander, or if anybody has like a GameFAQs walkthrough of all the minicon locations on Commander difficulty, let me know, because I'd honestly really, I've had this game for a number of years and I really would like to beat it on that difficulty, but it's quite the daunting task here. So if we hold down circle, we can go in this kind of first person perspective, which is called scout mode, and aim a little bit more accurately. Of course, we don't really need to aim the homing rockets. Our reticle has two different, what do you call it? Sections to it. The one section is for your primary weapon, the other section is for your secondary weapon. You'll see your reticle will change in shape and design with each weapon combination you have, and you'll be able to tell that one part of it, like if you're aiming at an enemy at long range and one part of it is red and the other part isn't, that means one of your weapons is in range of hitting the enemy and the other part isn't. I'll give a better example of that when I have some more long range weapons and I have a different configuration for my reticle right here, because I'm not really sure which part is which. As I was saying about the Autobots, there are only 3 Autobots we can play as in this game. We can't play as the Decepticons, which is kind of a letdown when you think about how many characters War for Cybertron had, but this was back in the day, and we liked it! Alright, new Minicon. This one is called Safeguard. He is going to be some armor for us, which is actually really nice. We're going to be able to resist a lot more damage that way. Safeguard is actually the name of Vector Prime's Minicon in the Cybertron series, but more on that later on. Like I said, I'm actually quite a big fan of the Armada series. It was the one that I'm most nostalgic about, really. Again, it's hard to sit through nowadays. It's not quite as nice as I remember it, but it has some nice aspects to it. Energon series, I never really sat through. I didn't really care for it right out of the get-go. And then the Cybertron series I also liked. I liked that series, so all my Cybertron references will be hopefully welcome in this LP. But these guys over here, if I didn't say so before, are medium units, which will be the primary enemies we'll fight throughout the game. I'm trying to sneak up on them and hit them with the homing rockets before I get too carried away here. But the light units will become obsolete almost by the end of this level, because the light units are ridiculously weak, and until we have a better weapon, they're pretty much the best things we could fight with only our when we've lost our primary weapon. But once we get better weapons, the game will pretty much erase them from existence. This is a new thing over here. It's called a Datacon, and it basically just has unlockables. It's nothing really that special.
We can extract
now my goal for this LP is to show the location of every minicon in the game, so we can have every weapon and ability in the game. I do not promise, however, to get every single Datacon, because honestly, that showing the unlockables kind of defeats the purpose of even finding it yourself, and to me, it's just not worth it. And I honestly don't remember where most of them are as it is. So there's no weapons in your vehicle mode, unfortunately. But anyway, as I was trying to say earlier, we have 3 available characters to choose from. We have Hotshot, who is our Bumblebee equivalent, our teen bot for the Armada series. We have Red Alert, who is our now I think a lot of fans speculate that the name Hotshot comes from the inability to use the name Hot Rod anymore after some licensing issue with Hasbro. Well, now every new incarnation of Hot Rod is strictly called Rodimus, whether it's Rodimus Prime or not. But I'm sure you guys already know about that. And if you don't, there you go. Learn something new every day. Anyway, the Hotshot is like our Bumblebee teen bot type character. He's the arrogant, teenager who thinks he's something else, hence the name. And Red Alert is our medic type character. Red Alert is actually a character from Generation 1, although he was completely crazy in Generation 1. He is basically our Ratchet equivalent, or our medic equivalent, which is also kind of an archetypical Autobot character. He's the sensible, quiet one, and he's also left-handed. But we'll get around to using him later. I want to use one level per character. This level I'm going to play as Hotshot, and the next level I'm going to play as Red Alert, just to demonstrate them. But for the rest of the game, I'll be playing as the third and obvious choice character, which is Optimus Prime, because he is better in every single way, and I'll be explaining why when we actually get around to playing as him, because I couldn't explain the reason right now. It's very convoluted and confusing. So as I was saying, this game has physics. It has ragdoll physics, it has vehicle physics, it has all kinds of physicsy, and it also has scaling issues and big environments and all kinds of other craziness. But our mobility is kind of limited. Like, we carry a lot of momentum when we... Oh, what the hell? Hang on. My capture device is messing up. That's nice. Well, it's never done that before. I think I'll leave this in here and not edit it out, just to give you guys a little warning that my capture device might be screwed up. Okay, here we go. Yeah, okay. Anyway, oh, come on. I think it's not the capture device. I think it's my AV cable for my PS2 is messed up, so I'm gonna have to mess with that later and hope that the problem does not persist. Anyway, when you carry so much momentum, so kind of moving quickly is really the only way to dodge attacks. There's no real way to dodge attacks. Like, there's not a lot of cover to use, and that's just not what type of third-person shooter this is. So this is more... See, that's what I was talking about before. See how the outer part of my reticle was lit up and the inner part wasn't? That was because the rockets were locked onto that guy, but my blaster was out of range. Is what that means. But basically, you have to... Staying alive in this game is basically, you know, killing an enemy, and taking less damage than the amount of energy it's going to drop is going to give you back. If that makes any sense, because you're only getting health by killing them.
Confirm.
I got it.
So if you take more damage than what you're going to get back from health by killing them, then you pretty much wasted your time. But I think that, now I've seen a lot of people play this that don't do this, but I like to sort of jump from side to side to increase my momentum a little bit and help dodge attacks by moving vertically, horizontally, and all that other stuff at an angle. And I think that really helps to dodge attacks, especially from heavier enemies with rockets and whatnot. But I notice a lot of people don't do that. As you can see right here, when we melee these two guys, you melee just by hitting the fire button when you're like right in front of it, point blank with an enemy. We have our green Minicon we picked up for L2. I didn't get a chance to explain it because I was busy talking. Is Pressure Point, and he is a melee booster, and that's pretty nice just for this level, but I will never use it again because I don't really like to melee. It is pretty funny to have both the melee booster and the super melee booster and just come and whack the crap out of a larger enemy. But we will get that until later in the game. Those of you who have already played this game and know about all the different Minicons, know about some of the wacky Minicon combinations that there are. And let me tell you, there are some ridiculous ones. I plan to show off at least every Minicon, and hopefully some wacky Minicon combinations. Might not necessarily be the most effective ones, but ones that are just, you know, funny or give you some interesting results or give some unique play styles for this game. Over here we found Claymore proximity mines, which are... They're a blue Minicon, so there's not really a whole lot we can go with them right now. We had a Minicon team going with Safeguard and Lock On there, and now we don't. So we got a little health boost from the Minicon team. But these are, again, proximity mines. You can shoot down a ton of them, and then you can shoot them. You can manually shoot them with your primary weapon to detonate them, or you can just let an enemy hit them. And they're pretty powerful, especially against these medium units, but they have a pretty pathetic range, and they're not really all that efficient in general combat, but with look at how many of them you can shoot out. Like, that's ridiculous. Without it having to recharge. There's unlimited ammo in this game, but I didn't say so before. It's just every weapon has a cooldown time. As you can see, it's recharging there. Look at my primary bar there. So this area right here is pretty tricky because you have to do a vehicle jump, which means, you know, going over the jump and then transforming in midair. And I'm about to mess it up. Oh, that sucked. Well, I usually don't fail that, but let me go ahead and show this on screen so I can, for one, talk a little bit more, and two, I can show you guys the way out of here if you make the same mistake. There's some more minicons around here, but we need some other minicons that will allow us to cover more different terrain to access them. So there's not every minicon level you can get right away without another specific minicon we unlock later in the game. So this just kind of loops back around to where we picked up Claymore. But like I was saying, the great thing about it is you can just kind of dump a whole payload of mines on one big enemy and it just wrecks them completely. Which I'll be demonstrating here once we actually get to where I was trying to go before. But other than that, I have a hard time recommending it. It makes a cool sound, and like I said, it makes some cool explosions. But I don't really recommend it. Every minicon has its use to a certain extent. It's just kind of later in the game weapons become obsolete and that sort of thing. But there's always a trade-off. There's always a reason for why you'd have one over the other. Ooh, that was close. Okay, this is the tricky jump I gotta make. This is actually harder to do as Hotshot because he's so fast. It's actually probably easiest to do as Optimus because he stays steady, although his truck mode is very slow and otherwise not very good for those types of jumps. This is a spider tank. He has armor plating on his legs and therefore all shots will be reflected off him. He also has a super death beam charged particle beam. Yay for these 2004 robot games with charged particle beams, as if we hadn't seen that before. They're very tough, they have a lot of health, and they're pretty dangerous. Also, if you get too close to them, I think they can knock you down with their legs. Oh, sorry, I had to sneeze. Anyway, we're immediately going, now that we've demonstrated Claymore, we're immediately going to go tell him to go screw off because we're going to replace him with another minicon. That'll be later though. This one right here is not the minicon I thought it was. This is one we're going to equip over Pressure Point. We can tell him to go screw off. Back to the base with your Pressure Point. We don't need you around here anymore. You autosave whenever you pick up a minicon or whenever you complete a primary objective. This is a shield, but I'll go ahead and warn you guys right now. This PS2 that I'm recording on right now, or at least this particular controller, has a notoriously bad L2 button. And this has not really hindered me in any of the other games I've recorded because I either recorded them with a different PS2 controller or the game just didn't use the L2 button that much. This one, on the other hand, I'm frantically mashing in the L2 button to try to get the shield to work, to get Deflector to work. And Deflector is a very good minicon, and it's kind of a shame that I have to do that. So if you guys are wondering, why isn't he using Deflector? Use Deflector, you'll take less damage. It's because I'm trying, it's just not working. So later in the, I discovered that, now that I've discovered that, I'll probably swap to a different controller. Just for the sake of my sanity during this LP. So that's a really nice minicon. That, plus the armor, plus a minicon team means you're going to really have a lot more durability. And if you get used to playing like that, and you swap to a minicon team that doesn't give you much of a health bonus, or you don't have an armor minicon, or the shield, like if you're missing any of those three things, you'll notice, like you'll probably end up dying a lot more if you are missing those three things, because this is a very defensive paradigm we have going on here. What else was I saying? I believe the orange minicons and the red minicon teams give you the best health bonus. Like I think the yellow minicon or orange minicon teams give you the best health bonus, but there's different passive abilities. I'll have to look into specifically what they are that you get for each minicon team. Although one other thing I was gonna say was this deflector can only. Let me get one sentence out before I start another here. The save points, when you touch them, they can allow you to warp back to the base and change your minicon team. So if you don't like what you have right now, you can always go back to the base at a save point and change your loadout. And honestly, the ability to choose any loadout for any character like that and customize it is really innovative for this game, despite the fact that it's pretty much an old school, shoot things until they die Atari game, is what this is, basically. We got a new minicon there. It's a green minicon. It's called, Failsafe, and it is a cluster rocket, and it is really powerful. It does not seek like Lock-On does, but it's more powerful, so we're going to use it instead of the silly Claymore mines. And we're going to blow up that spider tank with it, and it was pretty effective at doing so. What else was I saying? Other passive abilities, Minicon teams, rocket launcher, save points. I do not remember, and this is going to be bad. But anyway, we are at the end of the level here, and we're about to fight a heavy unit. There's a cutscene there. I'm going to skip all the cutscenes except for certain parts of them, I guess. This game doesn't really have much of a plot, so I'm not really concerned about that. And if you're interested, you can just watch it for yourself. I know I was going to say something, but now we're up against a heavy unit, which is kind of a mini boss battle. And quickly get away from him. Go down here if you can, once he deals enough damage. Oh, I was going to say, that's what I was going to say. With Deflector, you can only block certain projectiles. Like, you can block laser blasts. And that's, of course, the majority of the things that are going to be coming at you, but you cannot block melee attacks, and you cannot block ballistics, like rockets. There will be a shield for that later in the game, but one thing at a time here. Obviously, the rockets are the most powerful weapon we have right now, so we're definitely going to be using those. Conveniently, we just pick them up. So always have Deflector out when he's using his primary blaster, and then when he uses rockets, try to get behind cover. But one thing you do not want to do is get too close to this guy, because he has a devastating melee attack, which will send you flying